I don't know about you, but for me, there is nothing I like more to disconnect from the busyness of our daily life than to cook food for my family, which is one of my love language, especially when I prepare our Shabbat dinner on a cozy Friday afternoon. So today I'm so excited because I will bring you along as I prepare for a cozy Shabbat. I will show you my routine on a Friday afternoon after work to prepare for Shabbat, what special ingredients I add to our Shabbat food as an Orthodox Sephardic Jew to create long-lasting memories for our children and family. I will also share with you some behind the scene of what really happens to our Shabbat on Friday afternoon. And by the same token, I will answer one of your most asked questions. What does my husband and children do to help me on Shabbat? And I think you will be surprised by what they do to help. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Sara Malka, and on my channel, I share all facets of my Orthodox Sephardic Jewish life as a full-time working mom with yummy kiddos. So please don't forget to leave this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Let me put on a pretty tichel, and let's jump into it. Today I start my Shabbat Friday dinner prep with the 7 salads, as I find the taste of the salads gets better when I let them sit in the fridge for a bit before Shabbat, but you can absolutely prepare and serve them right away if you prefer. And as usual, all the recipes will be in the description box below, and I will leave a detailed timestamp for all the recipes so you can find the recipes you need with ease, because I do value your time. As you saw, I took 1 large can of pitted green olives. I drained them. I put the olives in a pot and covered them fully with water. I placed them on the stovetop on high heat and let them be until they come to a boil to remove some of the saltiness of the olives. While the olives are cooking, I will do a fast pickled onion, which is amazing with a piece of warm challah and hummus, or in any green salad. I start by putting a very thinly sliced red onion in a sterilized glass container, making sure to use a jar when it is filled with the sliced onion that still has at least a good inch free at the top of the jar. In a saucepan, I add vinegar, water, sugar. I mix everything and let it come to a boil. By now the olives are boiling, as you can see. So I remove them from the stovetop and drain them. For now, I will leave them in a strainer. The water, vinegar, and sugar mixture is boiling, so I will once again remove it from the stovetop and cover the onions with this pickling juice. I will add the lid, shake everything once, then loosen the lid once again, leaving it at room temperature until it completely cools off. While the onions are pickling, I will complete the olive salad. In a small bowl, I add the tomato paste, and I don't know about you, but I love the tomato paste in a tube. It is so easy to store if you don't use the complete tube, so it's a definitely plus in my kitchen. I add 2 garlic cloves that I crush. You can absolutely add garlic powder if you prefer. Then I add 1 cup of water. I mix everything with my handy-dandy sauce mixer, and I'm curious to know, do you use such tool? Did you ever hear of it? Let me know in the comments below. Once I get a nice looking sauce like this, I add some honey to balance the acidity of the tomatoes. I mix everything in. Finally, I add some salt to let all the different flavors speak out. I put the sauce over the olives. Place the pot on the stovetop. I add a bit of water to almost cover the top of the olives. I give it a good mix. Then I'm going to let it cook on low-medium heat until the sauce is nice and thick and the olives are nice and soft, so for about 20 minutes. After that cooking time, the olive salad is ready and usually will be served for our Shabbat dinner with the fish. Next, I make Amba. Today I'm using it as a dip, but sometimes I will use it as a sauce with meat. I will be using a mango, a grossly chopped small onion, some minced garlic. For the spices, I will use cumin, turmeric, paprika, ground mustard, fenugreek, curry powder, and salt. My first step will be to put the mango, onion, and garlic in a pot on medium heat. I add the spices, mix everything until fragrant, just enough to revive the spices. Once the kitchen smells like I'm walking through the spice market, I add 2 cups of cold water. I mix everything until it is fully combined, and I will let it cook until it forms a gentle boil, which takes about a minute or 2. I reduce the heat, and I will leave it uncovered to cook, stirring it frequently for about 20 minutes until it thickens. Once it reaches this beautiful amber color and this consistency, I will remove the pot from the heat and I will let it cool down. I take a quick pause from our salad making and I will turn my attention to this easy but delicious meat recipe. In a parchment-lined aluminum pan, I add my quartered baby potatoes. I add some soy sauce, some Montreal spices, some olive oil. I add some honey. I mix everything until fully combined. I add the sauce over the potatoes, making sure that I drizzle the sauce everywhere. To make sure that every potato is coated, I will mix them like this. I add the meat. This is pepper steak. It is a special ashkara or kosher meat that is Bet Yosef. I added as well the sauce on it. I add some onions and I add the rest of the sauce. I fold the corners of the parchment paper, cover it with aluminum foil, and I will put it simply in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit and I will let it bake for 2 hours. Then I go back to my salads with the Amba, in which I'm going to add some oil. Then I add the juice of half of a freshly squeezed lemon or about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I also add some salt and mix everything until it is fully incorporated. Then I let everything cool down until it reaches room temperature. Once our Amba reaches room temperature, I will put it in a blender. Here I'm using my mini Ninja and I'm learning to really love this little kitchen tool. I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts on personal blenders? Let me know in the comments below. Once it reaches the consistency that we're looking for us we're looking for a silky smooth Amba, I will transfer it to a glass container and keep it in the fridge until we're ready to eat it with our challah during our Shabbat dinner. As you know by now, a Sephardic Shabbat menu cannot be complete without at least one item made with chickpeas. So we'll do a chickpea salad. In a mini food processor, I add the parsley leaves, the garlic, then I add the mini bell peppers. I like using them because they are super sweet, but you could also add a bit of hot bell peppers for a bit of heat. I pulse everything until the mixture is formed of pieces of equal size like this. I set it aside and in a pan I put my olive oil on medium heat. I add the herb and mini bell pepper mixture. I mix everything until fragrant, which literally takes about 30 seconds. I add my soaked chickpeas, and if you do not eat chickpeas, you can replace them with quinoa or rice. I mix everything again for about a minute. And voila, the salad is done. It will be kept in the fridge until we're ready to eat it on Shabbat. Next up, the Schrug, which is an amazing and fresh salad with a bit of zing. In the mini blender or food processor, I will add the garlic, hot pepper, coriander, parsley, and checked mint leaves, as well as the cumin. Then I add the lemon juice and oil. Then I will put it on my blender and pulse it a few times until it forms a paste. Once it reaches the consistency of a granular spread, it is ready to be eaten on a hot piece of challah on Shabbat. Next, we will make the easiest Moroccan eggplant salad. I take the meat of 2 cooled-off baked eggplants, but you can absolutely use ready-to-use cooked eggplants in a jar. I add to it some cut spring onions, some finely chopped onions, finely chopped bell peppers, a few leaves of parsley for color. I mix everything with vinegar, cumin, and salt. And that's it. It's ready to eat. It's so easy and delicious and absolutely fabulous. The 7th salad will be a simple avocado salad that I will prepare just before we sit down to eat our Shabbat dinner. I remove the pit using my large knife, cut the avocado in small chunks, remove everything with a spoon, place it in a bowl. Then I add some lemon. I mix the lemon with the avocado to make sure that every piece of avocado is fully coated with the lemon juice to avoid browning. I add the spices, mix everything, and it's ready to be eaten on Shabbat. I take a break from the kitchen to see what everyone is doing around the house to prepare for Shabbat. Leah is setting the table so beautifully. She is our little designer, thank God, and we are always so proud of her for coming up with new tablescape designs every week in honor of Shabbat. Naomi is taking out the candlesticks to light for Shabbat. She shines them too because they're a bit sad looking today. In our family, we light 1 light per person for Shabbat. Our son Mikael, who is camera shy, has already taken out the garbage, the recycling. He vacuumed the floors and mopped them too. He puts back all the liners for the garbage and the recycling bins, which is a true treat for me. My husband did the last-minute shopping on his way back from work, which is always a must on Friday, as I always forget something. And this is such a big help every week. He does even more things in the house besides taking care of the recycling and the garbage too. He does his own laundry and he irons everything, including his talit katan, before Shabbat. He also takes time to prepare the light for Shabbat in such a special way, making sure that everything is perfect and ready for me to light just before Shabbat. Now that I know everyone is busy preparing for Shabbat, I can go back in the kitchen to prepare the fish and the desserts. In a mini food processor, I add the cilantro and the parsley. I add the cloves of garlic. Of course, I close the chopper and then pulse it a few times. I scrape off the sides with a spatula to make the mixture as smooth as possible. As you know, scraping the sides of the chopper will allow me to have a more uniform end result. After a few pulses, the mixture is uniformly chopped. I take out a bowl, and again, if you do not have fresh herbs, you can take dried herbs, and I will leave the measures in the description box below with all of the recipes. I transfer the herb and garlic mix into this bowl. I remove the vast majority of the mixture. Once it's done, I will use the same mini chopper, where I'm gonna add a small onion, and pulse it until finely minced. As you guessed it, I will take the time to scrape off the bigger chunks of onion stuck on the wall of the bowl to make the mixture as uniform as possible. Once it's done, I will remove as much water as I can from the mixer, then add the chopped onions to the previous herbs and garlic mix. I put everything in the bowl and I set it aside. In a large food processor, I add the salmon and the tilapia, and I will pulse the fish until it is evenly minced. And if you do not have a food processor, no problem. You can absolutely mince the fish with a regular knife or simply ask to have your fish minced at the grocery. When I reach this even consistency, I add the zest of a lemon that I have previously brushed and washed to make sure there are no scale insects on the peel. Next, I add the breadcrumbs, but once again, you can substitute them for matzo meal or any gluten-free alternative. I add the paprika, the turmeric, and finally, salt and pepper. I cover the spices with the fish mixture, and with clean hands, I combine the ingredients until fully incorporated, making sure not to over-mix. I form a loose ball, cover it, and put it in the fridge for about 15 to 20 minutes, but the longer, the better. While it's resting, I will start the sauce. In a deep pan, I add the bell pepper, tomato, the garlic, and the small bell peppers. I place them in layers not only because it is so pretty to look at, but also because it is a way to make sure the fish balls will not touch the bottom of the pan. I sprinkle everything with a generous amount of coriander to give a splash of freshness to the dish. For me, when I see all these beautiful colors, I thank God for everything He puts in our world that is so beautiful. I continue the sauce by making a spice slurry. In a small bowl, I add the paprika, tomato paste, and salt. I add the olive oil, then mix everything until fully combined. In the bowl with the spices, I add 1.5 cups of boiling water. I mix again and pour everything on the veggies. I place the pan on the stovetop. I bring everything to a boil. Once a gentle rolling boil is reached, I decrease the heat to low medium and let it cook uncovered for 3 to 5 minutes. During that time, I make my fish balls. Once it's done, I add the fish balls on the veggie mix, making sure they are not overlapping to have an even cooking time. I shake the pan to make sure the balls are nicely embedded in the sauce. I will baste them right away, and I will repeat the basting on and off for the next 15 minutes. After that time, I cover the pan and leave them to cook for 20 minutes on low simmer. While the Shabbat fish is cooking, I do a few things around the house to make sure our home is ready for Shabbat. I put the hot water urn on the Shabbat mode to be able to use it on Shabbat. I also make sure the fridge's light will be turned off, as well as the ice maker. This way we can use the ice bucket inside the freezer without the ice maker being turned on and creating other ice cubes, which would be forbidden on Shabbat. I turn on the warming drawer that will stay on all Shabbat long to warm up our challah, making it extra special. I cover all the light switches that are going to be left turned on during Shabbat to make sure we do not turn them off during Shabbat by mistake. I take a moment to admire my husband's work for the Shabbat light and thank God for such a lovely husband. Our tradition is to light 5 lights for our family, 1 per person, but our obligation is only to light 2 candlelights for Shabbat. I put aside 3 coins to put in the tzedakah box or charity box before I light the candles before Shabbat to start Shabbat with a mitzvah or a good deed or good action. I add the boxes of kosher tissues in every bathroom. These tissues can be used on Shabbat because each tissue is separated from each other. We do not use regular toilet paper on Shabbat because the roll of toilet paper needs to be teared apart in pieces to be used, which is not permitted on Shabbat. Once all is done, I can go and take my shower. And while I'm taking my shower, Leah will prepare the base for 2 of our 3 desserts for Shabbat. The base for our delicious and refreshing Shabbat dinner dessert is our homemade ice cream with a fancy twist. We're not using regular dairy whipped cream because we're eating meat at our Shabbat dinner, and we do not mix meat and milk as Orthodox Jews. She adds 6 eggs, making sure the eggs have no blood spots. She does that by putting each individual egg one at a time in a glass container and looking at the top and the bottom of the egg. Once she is sure there is no blood spots, she adds them to the mix. If you are a vegan or prefer not to use raw eggs, you can absolutely use an egg replacement like this one. She adds a cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, she mixes everything until it forms firm peaks. I am so proud of our Leah because she is now so much more involved in the preparation of Shabbat, and she's actually looking forward to it every week. If you want to encourage her, let her know in the comments below how well she's doing. Today she puts the mixture in a popsicle-shaped silicone mold. Then she flattens the top. She will tap the mold on the counter to remove all the air bubbles. She inserts the popsicle sticks, and she will set them aside for about 2 hours in our deep freezer. Our second Shabbat dessert, I will melt some parve or non-dairy white chocolate and some dark chocolate chips. I will pour them in a silicone mold and leave them for 5 minutes in the fridge, and it will give me these nice thin chocolate shells. I fill them with Leah's ice cream base, leave a bit of space at the top for easy unmolding later on. Then I place it in the deep freezer for about 2 hours. Because I had some white chocolate left, I poured them in a small silicone mold to make fancy chocolate for Shabbat. And for the extra melted chocolate chips, I felt a bit bougie. I simply dipped half of the frozen ice lollies in plain melted chocolate. And for the other half of the ice lollies, I added crushed nuts in the chocolate and dipped the ice cream pop in the melted chocolate. And before I could film the end result, all the family and friends took the ice cream lollies, and I was left with only 2. And when I went around the house to do my little investigation, I found our Naomi enjoying one of the lollies. And apparently they were pretty good, thank God. For our fancy dome-shaped dessert, it looks so impressive, yet it's so easy to make. Today we used a simple vanilla base with some crushed Oreos, but you could also add any jam or caramel, biscoff spread, anything you want. And you can also drizzle the top with some chocolate sauce, caramel, or even some fruits on the side to elevate this dessert even more. By now, everything is ready, including the delicious Shabbat fish with its copious amount of sauce to dip your challah in it. And if you have never tried it, it is a must. What else is ready? The meat. It is right out of the oven. As you can see, the meat is juicy and the potatoes are a nice deep golden color because they absorb the yummy flavors from the meat juice and the sauce. I label everything and put everything on the hot plate: the fish, the meat, the dafina I prepared this morning, and if you want to see a whole video on how I make my cholent or Sephardic dafina, I will leave the video in the description box below and the tag above. I also made some extra green beans simply by dicing a small onion, add it on top of the frozen green beans with salt, garlic, and they will be ready when we eat our Shabbat dinner. The challah are put in the warming drawer by Naomi. And voila, our Orthodox Sephardic home is ready to receive the Shabbat Queen. I would love to know, what was the part of our Shabbat prep you liked the most? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me, and know that my life would not be the same without you. And if you're here until the end, please write in the comments. I love cozy cooking, so I know I was not alone. And if nobody told you today, know that you are loved, and you are enough just the way you are. Until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and don't forget to frum it up.